I am Dominic Smith, one of the organizers of this series, along with Raphael Schunla. Thank you for coming to this session, which is sponsored by CEBRA and the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland Inflation Center. And without further ado, let me hand this off to the moderator, Hugh Montag, from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, who will discuss the format and introduce the...
Thank you for the introduction. Today's session will go over two topics. The first is the anatomy of countercyclical dispersion of price changes. And the second will be firms' inflation expectation pass-through into prices and wages. Before I continue, I'd like to offer special thanks to the two organizers, Raphael Schunle from Brandeis University and Dominic Smith from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. The way this webinar is organized is that it will be 45 minutes and will contain two presentations that will each be about 15 minutes. After both of these presentations, there'll be a 10 to 15 minutes for a Q&A session where the presenters will be able to answer any questions. Attendees do not have the option to turn on their audio or video, but they are invited to write comments or questions in the Q&A space. Attendees can post these questions during the presentation, and they don't have to wait until the end. After which the moderator, me, will select questions to be answered in the Q&A portion of the webinar. This webinar is also live streamed via the CEBRA YouTube channel, and it will be recorded and made available on the CEBRA website, which is www.cebra.org, as well as the CEBRA YouTube channel after the event. Finally, a quick disclaimer. Participation in a CEBRA webinar does not constitute or imply an endorsement, recommendation, or favoring endorsement of the views, opinions, products, or services of the Central Bank Research Association or any other participating institution, individual, or entity. All views expressed during a CEBRA or CEBRA co-hosted event are strictly those of the authors, discussants, and other participants, and not those of CEBRA, the co-sponsoring institutions, or any other participating institution. Okay. So without further ado, first is Minghao Li, an assistant professor at Peking University, who will be talking about the anatomy of countercyclical dispersion of price changes. Minghao Li, if you'll take it away.
So shall I share my screen, right? Yeah. Okay, do you see? Okay, great. Thank you for offering me this opportunity to present my work at this CEBRA webinar, which I really appreciate. So the project I present today is the anatomy of countercyclical dispersion of price changes. So one status effect in monetary economics is that the distribution of price changes becomes more dispersed in recessions. So for example, if you collect all the data on price changes of all products in a given area, for example, in New York or in Boston, and then you pull all these observations together and then you plot the distribution of price changes, you would find that during recessions, the distribution of price changes is more dispersed. In other words, the dispersion of price changes is countercyclical. So understanding this phenomenon is kind of important because it conveys some information on what happened during the recession. And so it helps us to better understand the business cycles and the policies during the recessions. So what kind of policies are more effective during recessions. Now, the leading explanation of this phenomena is based on exogenous or endogenous uncertainty shocks. So basically, the story is that during the recession, the firms face more volatile shocks of their marginal cost or the productivity. And so the price changes, the variance of price changes goes up. So in this paper, different from this conventional wisdom, I offer new empirical evidence on what drives this countercyclical dispersion of price changes. So like in statistics, you can always decompose a variance of a sample into the variance within groups and variance between groups, right? Variance across groups. For example, if you decompose the overall heights of a class, you can first split the class into boys and girls, and then you can calculate the variance of the height of the boys, and the variance of the height of the girls, and the variance of the difference or the means of the heights of boys and girls. So following the similar logic, so I split all the products into the within store product category group and between store product category group. So I find that 80% of the increase in the dispersion or price changes happens within store and product category, and the rest of the 20% happens between store and product category. And within store product category, 60% of the variance comes from the goods of different quality, change prices in different directions, and the rest of the 40% comes from the variance between quality groups. And this within quality group variance actually mostly is driven by the diverging price adjustment along the quality dimension. So I show that prices of low quality goods actually drop dramatically during the recession, while the prices of high quality goods kind of remain stable. So this diverging price adjustment of goods with different quality actually drives the countercyclical dispersion of price changes. And then to explore why the prices of low quality goods drop dramatically, actually show that consumers who purchase low quality goods actually become more price sensitive during the recessions compared to consumers who mostly purchase high quality goods during the recessions. So let me first begin with the data. So I use two data sets. The first one is the Nielsen retail scanner data, and the second one is the Nielsen consumer panel. So the Nielsen retail scanner data is a weekly panel data from 2006 to 2015. It includes 371 metropolitan statistical areas and 2,500 counties, and it has around 40,000 stores. And for each store, we can observe an identifier for that store. And all the prices and quantities are collected from this point of sale scanner system. So basically, I can observe the price and the sale volume for each unique product at the UPC level. And this data set also has a very broad coverage of the retail sector. For example, it has 10 departments with like a daily non-food grocery at the department. And within these 10 departments, there are 125 product groups. For example, for the milk product group, you have like milk, buttermilk, flavored milk product categories. So there are in total around 1,000 product categories, and there are 3 million UPCs. So each UPC actually is a unique product with a barcode. And what's unique about this data set is that it contains detailed information about each UPC. For example, the volume, the weight for each product, so I can construct the quality measure for each UPC. And then I merged this data set with the Nielsen consumer panel. And this is also a panel survey from 2004 to 2015 with 50,000 households. For each household, I can observe the location information with zip code. So I also know the income of this household with many demographic information. More importantly, it also contains information on shopping. So I can observe on which date the household visit which store and purchase which UPCs with all the price and quantity information. And I can also observe whether this UPC is on sale or the household purchased these UPCs using coupon. So I'll use this information to measure the price sensitiveness of these households during the recessions. And because the sample is so large, so my baseline sample actually uses the Minneapolis-St. Paul metropolitan area from 2006 to 2015 with 1.1 billion store level transactions and 900 product categories, around 400 stores, and 380,000 UPCs and around 1,000 households. So with this sample, I first construct the dispersion of price changes over time from 2007 to 2015. So the solid black line actually measures the interquartile range of price changes. So it's the difference of the price change at the 75 percentile and the price change at the 25 percentile. So it increases dramatically during the recession period from 2009 to 2011, and during which period the unemployment rate actually rises sharply in this area, and the inflation rate actually drops dramatically in this area. So basically, this dispersion of price changes is countercyclical. And what I do next is I want to decompose the increase in the variance of price changes into two components. So first, I can split the DPISCT, which is the log price change of product I at the store S at category C in week T into two components. So the first component is the mean of the log price change across products within the store S and category C. So basically, I pull all the price changes of all products within a store and product category and calculate the mean of the price change. And the second component is just the deviation of this log price change of product I from this mean. So, and then I can take variance on both sides. So basically, like in statistics, I can decompose the overall variance into two components. The first one is the within store category component. Basically, it is the variance of price changes of products within each store and category. And then I sum up all the variance of all the store and categories. And the next component is the between store category component. Basically, I calculate the average price change in each store category cell, and then I pull this mean price change together and then calculate the variance of the mean of these price changes. And then I plot this decomposition over time from 2007 to 2015. So basically, the total variance increase is mostly driven by this within store category component, but not the between store category component. So it's mostly like the variance of price changes within store and product categories that drives this countercyclical dispersion of price changes. And then I want to explore like what drives this within store product category the increase in dispersion of price changes. So I actually look at the quality dimension. So I split all the products in a store and product category into different quality groups. So let me first define what is quality. So quality actually is defined within a store and product category. So for example, the bottled water category in Whole Foods near University of Minneapolis, in University of Minnesota. So then for each product, I can compute the unit price averaged over its sample period. So for example, for bottled water, I can calculate the price per gallon. Then the relative unit price across products actually defines quality. So if a product has a higher unit price, I would interpret that it has higher quality. Then I split all these products into different quality groups. Then I can decompose the variance of price changes into the within quality group component and the between quality group component. So similarly, I plot the different components over time. So the orange solid line actually is the between quality component. So it measures the diverging price change behavior of goods with different quality. So it increased sharply during the recession. The next one is that the price change of the low quality group, the variance of price change of low quality group actually also increased sharply. So this increasing dispersion of price changes during the recession is mostly driven by these two components. And before I show the diverging price adjustment behavior of goods with different quality, let me first quote from the New York Times on August 20, 2009, which is just the trough of the Great Recession. So it said that as the recession wears on, Starbucks stores in several cities started charging up to 30 cents more for some specialty beverages, though the company is charging less for some basic drinks. So for specialty drink beverages, actually the Frappuccino, and the basic drinks is black coffee. So actually the price of black coffee actually drops 50 cents at Starbucks. And then, so the story kind of is similar. I split the products into different quality groups and then estimate the following regression equation for each product group, for each quality group, for all the products within each quality group. So I run its monthly inflation of each product at store S, at category C, at month T, in month T. This UT is the unemployment rate, and the Lambda FSC is the firm store category fixed effect, and epsilon is the residual. Then I plot the coefficient beta 0 along quality groups. So first, the beta 0 is negative, which means that as unemployment rate rises, the inflation actually drops for all the products. But the absolute value, absolute magnitude for beta 0 is kind of large for low quality group, which means that the inflation of the low quality products drop more compared to high quality products when the unemployment rate rises. And after this, I run more structured regression. So I interact the quality of a particular product with the unemployment rate at the Minneapolis area. So actually the coefficient also is positive, which means that as unemployment rises, the price of high quality goods actually drops less compared with the price of low quality goods. So some may wonder that this diverging price adjustment is driven by some cost factors. For example, the firms producing different goods of different quality might face different marginal cost, and therefore charge different prices and change prices differently. To address such concern, actually, I also include the firm store category fixed effect. By including this fixed effect, I essentially compare the price change of products within the same store, within the same category, and produced by the same firm. So this controls actually the different cyclicality of marginal cost of firms. And I also include the wholesale inflation for each product as control. And this does not basically change the magnitude or the sign of the estimate. And to recap, actually, I show that this within store category dispersion mostly drives the overall price change dispersion. And the main driver is actually the diverging price changes between goods of different quality. So prices of low quality goods drop dramatically, while prices of high quality goods remain stable. And the next question is, so why prices of low quality goods drop more? Because I also already control for cost factors, I show that it's mostly driven by demand factors. And it's actually driven by consumers' different shopping behavior during the recession. So to show this, I actually run the following regression. So H represents household. So YHT actually is the dependent variable measuring the log spending, the expenditure share on goods that are on sale, the expenditure share on generic goods, and the expenditure share using coupons. And the QH recession is the quality index of household H during the recession. Basically, I first collect all the products that household purchased during recession, and then calculate the standardized quality index for each product. And then I calculate this overall price index for household H, weighted by its expenditure share. So basically, this index measures the average quality of the household H purchased during the recession. And the UT is again at the unemployment rate, and XT are some controls of the products or household income or this time varying factors. And then this actually is the regression result. So the dependent variables measure measure the price sensitiveness of the household, and then I show that actually during the recession, so as unemployment rate rises, if a household purchase high quality goods, actually it purchase low quality goods, actually it becomes more price sensitive. So it spend less, it spend more on the goods that are on sale, it spend more on generic goods, and it uses more coupons. So households who purchase low quality goods during recession actually become more price sensitive when unemployment rises. Then I control for household fixed effect and control a lot of household controls. So the story actually is that during the recession, the sellers of the low quality goods actually face more elastic demand. So the price elasticity of the household who purchase low quality goods increases more compared with the households who purchase high quality goods. So this drives down the markup of the low quality sellers, the sellers of low quality goods, and then that drives down the inflation of the low quality goods compared with high quality goods. So to conclude, so I actually show that the overall increase of the countercyclical price change dispersion is mostly driven by price changes within store and product category. But the increased dispersion of price changes within store and product category is mostly driven by diverging price changes of goods with different quality. That is, the prices of low quality goods drop dramatically during recession, while prices of high quality goods remain stable during the recession. And this diverging price adjustment behavior is actually driven by consumers of low quality goods become more price sensitive during recessions. So the markup of the sellers of low quality goods actually drops more compared with sellers of high quality goods. So I think I'll stop here. Thank you for, so.
Okay, thank you for presenting your paper. We're going to move on to Michael Lamla's presentation on firm inflation expectation passed through into prices and wages. And then after that, we'll conduct a Q&A, and I can already see that we have a lot of questions to ask Minghao Li after this presentation. Michael, if you would care to take it away.
Okay, thank you so much for having me and giving us the opportunity, or me the opportunity, to talk about our research project, which is jointly with Klaus Abberger, Ann-Kathrin Funk-Michalam, with me, and Sarah Lein and Stefanie Siegrist. And it's right now just a research project, and we haven't written up a lot, so any welcome at any stage or any suggestion is more than welcome, whether you post it here or just send me an email. So everything is highly appreciated. So yeah, thanks again for giving me this opportunity. In terms of topic-wise, we, as the title suggests, want to infer some causal effect on how expectation form or influence price and wage adjustment decisions of firms, what we basically sum up to an inflation expectation pass-through. And we would like to estimate it or provide quantitative evidence to this overall, but then have also two avenues you want to progress a bit further. The first one is related to the price setting environment. So what kind of price setters are those firms? So are they more flexible in their price setting behavior? So can they adjust at their will, basically, their prices? Or are they bound by some rigidity to adjust prices? And whether this has an effect or differentiates the pass-through. And there is, with this, we relate to one quite recent paper by Ivan Werning, where he theoretically argued that it makes quite a difference if you're a Carvo pricer, Taylor pricer, or you have the ability to do state-dependent pricing, then the pass-through is very different. He, in his model, shows that for Carvo pricing, you have quite a high pass-through, mainly motivated by the idea that given you're facing rigidity in your adjustment possibilities, you front load any foreseeable movements and just adjust prices much higher that you ideally would like to, because you just don't know when the next opportunity will be for you to adjust prices. And then the pass-through is much higher than in comparison with firms that are able to do state-dependent pricing, because they don't face this rigidity, and whenever they see fit, they just adjust their prices to the optimal price they are having. And well, so far there is no empirical evidence to this, and we try to shed more light on the relevance of these arguments here by looking at how firms, or dissecting firms into firms that are able to set their prices at their will at the timing, and firms that are more rigid in the price setting. We technically can do even more on this, because in the survey we run, we factor in a lot of other questions, but this is where we are at the moment, basically separating the type of firms in terms of their ability to set prices whenever they see fit. And the second dimension we would like here to explore a bit more is the relevance of the horizon of inflation expectations. We know that we form expectations because we are forward-looking individuals, and we have some kind of maturity structure in our mind, whether this is very much evolved or not, but we are looking forward. And for us, for economists, very often longer-term expectations are very relevant. And so we would also like to explore how different expectations at different horizons matter for this interest rate pass-through. So which kind of expectation are those, rather the short-run expectations that matter, or those that are the longer-run expectations? And then if you don't adjust the longer run, then basically you also don't adjust your prices on, and so on. So this is also an aspect we are interested in, particularly also because when we were doing this survey, we did some testing, so we had some interviews, and we already from this kind of anecdotal experience realized that firms have really good expectations, right? Remarkably good expectations 1 year ahead. But once you are discussing with them what life will be beyond the 1 year threshold and moving forward to 5 years, they say either they don't care so much, or they find it really hard to answer this. Yeah. So this is the agenda we are looking at, and we would like to explore this using survey methodology. So we rely on an institute that's in Switzerland, has experience over 80 years in doing those surveys, knows the firms very well, and we were able to convince them to run a special survey with us and elicit the expectations of roughly 1,330 companies in Switzerland on inflation expectations, on price setting expectation, wage setting expectation, and much more. And we set this up in order to say something that can be interpreted causally by incorporating also an RCT design, so that we give them some treatments, and with the response of those treatments, we then can infer the pass-through more with more causal substance. As you can see, I brought quite a bit of slides, and I encourage the moderator to cut me off anytime, because this is the most important slide. I just need to go through, and the rest is just supporting my claims I'm making here. So in terms of the main findings, we see pass-through that ranges between 0.25 to 0.5, so quite in line what's postulated by theory. So somewhere between Taylor pricing and state-dependent prices. Obviously, there's some convex combination of those. If we look at firms which are able to, or which report, because it's of course self-reported, claim that they are able to adjust prices anytime, then we see a much lower pass-through, which is also in line with the papers predicting this. In terms of pass-through and the horizon, which is important for us, or that contribute here, we see that particularly the 6-month to 1-year horizon matters the most in comparison to long-term expectations. And interestingly, for wages, this longer-term expectations have almost the same, or exert the same pass-through than the near-term expectations. There seems also be a difference in pass-through dynamics from the maturity structure of expectation between price setting and wage setting. In terms of literature, just one remark. A lot is happening right now. Very interesting papers are coming up. I mean, at the Fed of Cleveland, we have this fantastic paper by Hardini et al. In terms of theory, I already talked about this, that we have we're proving or testing the concept, the ideas of simulations of learning between those two. And the important bit is that the more flexible you get, the lower the pass-through you're expecting here. The survey is registered, so we are fine here. Regarding our methodology, as I said, we incorporate an RCT design. So first we ask people or the company representatives on their expectations regarding inflation, on price and wages, and also on the price and wage setting behavior. So how do they do this? When do they do it? Which month? Have they done this already? Is it generally very often or rarely? And what are the drivers? So we even have an idea, or could, we're not doing this, but right now, but technically we could even discriminate among the drivers that are relevant for those. Then we provide them with information treatments, and following this, we ask them to update their inflation expectations and their planned price and wage adjustments, so that we can elicit pre and post expectations, but also adjustment plans in terms of prices and wages. And so we have a nice comparison between pre-treatment and post-treatment in that respect. I have some slides on the questions, but they're fairly standard, so I just added them here for completeness. Relevant is, of course, this one on the price setting behavior. We ask them, well, do you change the prices once per year? Not per year, but every several years, and then not predetermined, and this is the important one, whenever cost or demand makes it necessary. So this is the state-dependent prices. In terms of treatments, we have 2 treatments. One with the idea of insinuating that inflation might be high, so referring to some subcomponent of a relevant subcomponent and saying that this is quite a substantive increase, and an alternative treatment showing that the Swiss National Bank did actually a great job over the past 20 years and they should not worry. So this is basically one treatment to tendency, could potentially trigger an upward adjustment, and the second treatment a downward adjustment. And afterwards, we asked them whether they would like to revise. So this is something worth noting, because we want people to consciously, or firm owners to consciously adjust their expectations. So we give them their answer they did previously, so they don't need to recap what they have been asked previously. They are shown this in the survey, and once they see this, they can then adjust this or not. So this is, I think, quite an important bit, that all the updates we are testing here are conscious updates and not something where people are just inattentive. I've been inattentive.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we have 4 minutes left in the presentation.
Perfect, thank you. I just show you the estimations. Before I show the estimation, I just want to show that the data is quite well behaved, which is different to consumer data. We see pre and post, so there's apparently also some effects of the treatments for expectation, prices, and wages. Let us move to the estimation, and then I will be done. So we explaining differences in our inflation expectation, wages, and prices with those two treatments. And if we do this, we see, if you focus on the last two columns for the three different maturities, a positive sign but insignificant for the treatment 1, which is showing you that energy prices are going up, a negative sign for the treatment 2, indicating that the Swiss National Bank was very good at stabilizing inflation. So we see an effect of the treatments, and what's important for us, and this is the next step, how this then fares in terms of pass-through on prices. And for the different maturities, you see that for the shorter run, so 6 months and 1 year, you see pass-through of around 0.5, and for the longer run, a much slower or smaller pass-through from changes in inflation expectations on prices. For wages, we see also significant pass-through, but substantially lower, and there is almost no difference between the short run and the long run. And the last slide refers to the updating, the state-dependent updating, whether this matters. And this is shown here, where we interact the expectations with the state-dependent pricing. And there we show that if you are able to adjust prices on your behalf, you adjust prices on a much lower scale than if you are in a situation or in a market where prices where you cannot adjust prices very often. And so this state-dependent prices matters, as well as the maturity structure matters. And that's basically everything I wanted to say. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. We have some questions. So I guess first for Minghao. Minghao, are you still on?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Great.
I am here.
Okay. So the first question is, for goods with quantity discounts, will you find that the good in the larger package is lower quality because its unit value is higher? Does this work against what you find because markups are presumably already low on the larger packages?
Yeah, sure. This is a very good question. Actually, in my robustness result, I actually control for this the size of different packages. So if the two products have the same, I just pull all these products which have the same product, the packages, same size of packages, and then redo my exercise within these products. So the result still holds. And the second point is that I actually focus on the change of the markups, but not the level of the markups. So even if they have a lower markup, what I show is that during the recession, their markups actually drops more compared to products which have higher quality.
Okay. The next question is for Michael Lamla. Do you have a notion of whether within a firm the decision maker on prices is the same as the decision maker on wages? If these responsibilities are disconnected, maybe they're made by two separate people, how does this matter for the interpretation of your findings?
Yeah, thank you so much for this very thoughtful remark. We haven't checked this, so it's a good point. The thing we made sure is that everybody who answers our survey has some seniority role in this company. So this is what we made sure, that it's not like some intern just filling out the form because the people in charge don't have time. So we know those names and addresses, and so we could basically check, expose whether this is the same one. And given, but this is just hypothesis, given that they are senior people, and even if they don't do the decision themselves, I guess the decisions depend on each other, right? So you don't change prices or don't change wages without any influence on the price mechanism. So I guess they are intertwined at some point in time, and even if this would be separated from one senior management to another senior management member, I think they at some point in time have to talk to each other to be in sync. So I guess it's a good point, and we will follow up on this. But so far we know that people that answer our survey have a great influence in these decisions.
Okay.
Thank you.
The next question is for Minghao. Is there another dimension of quality along which high quality products might adjust, like less fancy packaging?
It could be the case, but what I focus is on, I just fix the UPC and look at the pricing behavior of this particular UPC. But I didn't actually check whether they change their packages, whether it becomes less fancy or not. But what I look at is just the price margin. This is a good suggestion. Maybe I should also check, because I have all the relevant information for this. I can check whether this changes or not. Maybe they adjust along different dimensions.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, we have a question for Michael. In interpreting the response of prices, is it that higher inflation expectation leads to expectations of higher wages, which then pass into prices? So this would be a cost channel. Or is it that higher expected inflation leads to expectation that prices will depreciate faster relative to competitors, and therefore need to be raised by more for any given level of marginal cost? This would specifically be the channel emphasized by Verning. And can you separate the two channels? Sorry, this is kind of a multi-part question.
But it's a good one. So thank you so much. So I cannot find. This is a great point to differentiate. I think we have the possibility to look into this a bit deeper, because we are asking what matters for them, right? So how much inflation and prices matter for them, and so we also know whether the competition matters for them, how fierce is the market. So we could look into this, but we haven't done this, and but this is definitely super interesting. Yeah.
Okay. We have another question for Minghao. Okay, let's see. Products of low quality tend to have more elastic consumers. And in the second part of your paper, you mentioned that the consumers turn more elastic. How are your results driven by a higher elasticity versus a higher change in the elasticity, or how do you think the two relate? Can you disentangle the two drivers? also maybe already know this paper, but the following paper might be related. Here, I'm going to just post this in the chat for you. Variable markups, demand elasticity, and pass-through of marginal cost into prices from Burial and Mishra.
Okay, yeah, very, very good question. Actually, in the second part of my paper, what I show is that I didn't directly measure the elasticity, but what I show is that the consumers who mostly purchase low quality goods during recession becomes more price sensitive compared to consumers who still purchase high quality goods during recession. Actually, in my paper, I have a model. The story is like so I actually show like a high income household mostly purchase high quality goods, right? So during the recession, the income of low income households drop more, so they become more price elastic, and the households who still purchase high quality goods even during recession are kind of price insensitive, and the sellers of the high quality goods, the consumer pool is kind of becomes even more price insensitive. So the consumer pool of the low quality sellers actually becomes more price elastic. So the price of low quality goods actually drops more. And so basically the markups drops more. So about the second question on the variable markup, so actually in my theory, I actually still uses the Dixit-Stiglitz utility function. So I should have maybe tried whether the Kimball demand or could kind of explain the empirical facts. So for now, the story is about the change of the elasticity, but not about the other margin or higher change in the elasticity.
Okay. Thank you for your answer. I think that's all the time that we have for questions in the for the Q&A today. So I'd like to thank Minghao Li and Michael Lamla for presenting their papers at the CEBRA session, and thank you everyone else for attending and offering insightful questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay.